Hi, this is Randall, back here in Texas now.
Oh. And I'm Matt here in Michigan. Today, Randall and I are reviewing the latest Marvel TV series currently streaming on Disney Plus. Taking a look at Loki. It stars Tom Hiddleston, Owen Wilson, Sophia Di Martino, Gugu Mbatha Raw, and Wumi Masaku. Is created by Michael Waldron. He's been a producer for Rick and Morty and is a writing for the upcoming Doctor Strange sequel. And every episode of Loki was directed by Kate Herron. Now, before Randall and I go any further, if you guys like this review, be sure to give us a thumbs up. Also, be sure to hit that subscribe button and ring the bell and turn on notifications if you want to be notified about our latest videos.
Loki has received very positive critical response and almost equally positive audience response. As Matt said, it is currently streaming on Disney Plus, no extra fee. You can just go watch it if you have a subscription to the streaming service. It picks up right after the events of Avengers Endgame, where an alternate version of our Loki steals the Tesseract and then finds himself at the Time Variance Authority, where they ask for his assistance with a larger problem. Now, Matt and I are going to be getting into spoilers in this review, so if you haven't seen it or if you haven't finished it, big old spoiler warning right on the screen right now. Spoilers. Matt, what are your first impressions of Loki?
Randall, I have very mixed feelings about this. I generally like the characters, and I like some of the interactions between the characters. And I think probably my favorite part of the show is probably like the setting. I like the atmosphere and stuff of the show. But I don't know if a lot of things are really executed all that well. And a big part of it is like this movie wants you to kind of like feel things. And I don't think that I naturally feel those things. It's kind of like the show telling me, like, hey, you need to feel this. And you're just kind of like, okay.
So, number one, couple of things you said. I'm right there with you about my mixed feelings about it. There are spots in this where I really enjoyed it. There are spots in it where I was like, wow, I'm not quite there. Maybe it's dragging a little bit for me. There are definitely episodes, even though it's only 6 episodes long, where I thought, wow, this is dragging more than I would expect a 6 episode long show to drag. And the second thing you said, you did a slip of the tongue and you called it a movie, and I thought this script might have been a movie at some point and might have been stretched to a 6 episode TV series.
Oh yeah, I could definitely see that. And with what we have going on, I think that's kind of like the flavor of the day kind of thing, or the week, however you want to say. We're getting a lot of these like alternate realities and like going back through time and happening with a lot of different like alternate versions of different people and things. And for me, I mean, it's a cool concept. I mean, I think a lot of it might be because, our creator also was a producer on Rick and Morty, and we see quite a bit on that Rick and Morty too. But for me, it also kind of took me out of the show as well too, because it's like, all right, well, these are all variants, so it's hard to really like connect to them a little bit, or like really what's going on. Like, is anything that happens here actually gonna impact the MCU? And I think at the end we get to the point where we say like, yes, this is gonna impact what we see in the MCU and stuff. I think that might be the one thing I think this show does the best. I think this show, and much like some of the other, the other Marvel shows we got, it's setting up for what's next.
Oh, dude, this thing is totally setting up everything to come next. I mean, the fun thing about it is if you look back and you think about what happened in 2020 with human malware, there was just this pushback of all these movies, especially Marvel movies, especially Black Widow. Well, this thing, like where it was probably supposed to land, isn't where it has landed, basically. I think it was probably supposed to be a lot closer to Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness than it ends up being. Because the ending of Loki, not to just jump to the very end, where all of the timeline and all of the branches are just like all coming apart, it is just, boom, let's get into it. Let's get into, everything with the multiverse. And we know that the next Spider-Man movie is supposed to have like, Jamie Foxx is coming back in, but like his Electro is not from the MCU, and the same with Alfred Molina's Doc Ock is supposed to be in it, and it's like, okay, well, now we have all of these timelines and everything going crazy. So, like, I think this was supposed to be much closer to some of the real multiverse stuff than what we're getting in the MCU with Black Widow and, the Legend of the Ten Rings kind of stuff that is coming out.
Yeah, I think like Black Widow's kind of setting up like, all right, who's gonna be the next like kind of Black Widow character? And like this one, I think Loki really kind of ties in a bit with like WandaVision and kind of like, or at least just like the end of WandaVision. It's definitely setting up for where we're going to. And we actually have another baddie if we look at it. I mean, we have Kang the Conqueror. It looks like is what we're gonna have. We see kind of like Kang the Conqueror, but we see like a version of him. We're not seeing probably what's going to be the big baddie version, or maybe there's going to be multiple big baddie versions of King the Conqueror and stuff too.
It is interesting to see all of like the different Easter eggs and hints, but as like someone now we're getting quite deep into comic lore, and as someone who's like not a real avid comic book reader or anything like that, I'm afraid I'm missing things that are important or that like could be important because I'm not quite as up to snuff on Loki and all of the other MCU stuff or all the big like nitty gritty details of Marvel. Whereas with the original like phase 1, 2, and 3 stuff, I didn't really have to worry about that. The Easter eggs were there for people who really cared, but it didn't affect the viewing. With this series, specifically Loki, I think that you see a lot more of stuff that probably means so much more than I understand.
Me, I wasn't really a big fan of the finale. It's kind of like we got all this explanation of like King the Conqueror and all of it in this last episode. And it just kind of, we got, I don't know, I wouldn't say really much of a fight scene or anything at all, just like a little interaction scene. And that was about it. I was kind of disappointed in like that last episode, or at least like the pace of that last episode.
So the last episode itself doesn't bother me at all. I like the talking. I like that this character is giving, the Loki and the Sylvie characters choices. Like we can do this or we can do this, and you don't know if you can trust them. And the whole thing is like, I don't know if I can trust this person, or I don't know if Sylvie can trust Loki. I don't know if Loki can trust Sylvie, and I was perfectly okay with that. I think the problem is, unlike WandaVision and unlike the Falcon and the Winter Soldier, the ending of this series doesn't stand alone. It ends because it's getting other things going. Whereas those other series felt self-encapsulated. Like, okay, if they don't make another season of WandaVision, I'm okay with it. If they don't continue the storyline with Bucky and Sam, I'd be sad, but at the same time, it did a good job getting them into a good spot. Loki does not do that. Loki sets up, literally says, hey, boom, stamp, rubber stamp, season 2 is coming. Plus, it just sets up all of this other MCU films. So the ending feels maybe not very dramatic. Or I wouldn't say dramatic, but maybe like you wanted it to actually have a more of a conclusion than it does, and instead it is just wide open.
I guess where I would put Loki with like the other ones that we've got, I think I still like WandaVision probably the best. And I definitely like some of the parts and stuff that we have with Falcon the Winter Soldier. But it was because, like you said, I think WandaVision is like kind of like an encompassing season. Like we get a story like with a start, middle, end kind of thing. And this, like you said, it isn't. It's a short 6 episode, even though the episodes may be a bit longer, season. And it just sets up for a season 2, as opposed to a story with, start, middle, and end kind of thing.
I don't even think it really sets up for that much of a season 2. I mean, whenever season 2 for Loki's supposed to happen, the movies will have already come out and will have already like started doing things with these characters. Ant-Man and Quantumania, for example, has already confirmed that King the Conqueror is going to be in it. Where does season 2 take Loki if all the movies are going to handle all of the multiverse stuff? I don't know. That's for later for us to figure out and watch later. Like, I don't know that season 2 of Loki will have anything to do with the ending of season 1.
Here's one thing I want to say kind of about like the ending or whatever. I think it's a big part is I think a lot of it is like, did the Loki, Sylvie relationship or whatever actually work for you? And this is kind of what I was saying at the beginning. I feel like I was told how to feel about certain characters and stuff without me actually having those feelings. And to me, I don't know that Loki and Sylvie actually like worked. I think one of the things that worked for me, I like the first couple episodes when we get like the Owen Wilson and Tom Hiddleston dynamic and stuff. I think that worked pretty good. But I after the first two episodes, the show really ran out of steam for me, and I didn't like a whole lot that was going on in the show.
I also love the Tom Hiddleston Owen Wilson banter. Their characters and the actors have very good chemistry.
Are you taking me somewhere to kill me?
No, that's where you just were. I'm taking you someplace to talk.
And it was a shame that you didn't see as much of that. I was like, oh man, that was like the strength, and someone didn't see that because they got caught up telling this other story that they need to tell because that's the way the story needs to go. But I was okay with Loki and Sylvie's characterization when they were bantering, when they were going back and forth.
Must have been would-be princesses, or perhaps another prince.
A bit of both.
I was less inclined to be like, all right, he's fallen in love with one of his variants who just happens to be a female, I'm not necessarily on that train, I guess. Or they fell in love with each other, because apparently that's what it takes to make a really big Nexus event. Fall in love with one of yourselves.
Two variants of the same being, especially you, forming this kind of sick, twisted romantic relationship. That's pure chaos. That could break reality. It's breaking my reality right now.
A lot of the characters in this, though, are pretty good. Like, the acting is all top-notch. I can't complain about any of the acting, really.
One that was kind of interesting is like the third episode. I believe that's like the train episode kind of thing. It was kind
of the Doctor Who episode.
It was, and that's another thing too. And I was trying to put my finger on it too. Like, you know what? Why do these episodes feel like Doctor Who episodes? And they totally do. And I think I'm still trying to put my finger on exactly why that is. But that episode, that train episode, when it was over, and like the credits were going, I was almost expecting like the episode to start back up again. I almost felt like the whole episode on the train was like a prelude or an extremely long, an intro for like the rest of the episode. I was actually surprised when that episode was over.
The episodes 3 and 4 definitely felt like a Doctor Who very, very strongly. For some reason, maybe the time travel of going to a planet that's at the end of its lifespan, which happens often in Doctor Who, maybe it's that. But yeah, I wrote that down. Like, man, this feels like a Doctor Who episode.
I agree. I think that is part of it. And, some of that might also be like Rick and Morty a little bit too, because Rick and Morty has a bit of that too, where, they're going to like different planets and different stuff. And so I could definitely see like, Rick and Morty's kind of like, Back to the Future, but with Doctor Who.
This is the spot where the audience gets to tear Randall apart when he tells them he's never seen a single second of Rick and Morty. I just know that one of them's a terrible father, because there's memes on the internet about it.
And you know what? Let's say one of the highlights for me, I guess, in the show has to be the variant Lokis. I really liked running into different ones and them, adding in, and I thought that was kind of cool because it's sometimes when you have alternate timelines, it's just like it's like the same version of you that just made like one decision different. But this is more like, completely, different versions of Loki, which, like you're hinting, I think that's what we're getting at when we go with, the next Spider-Man and stuff film, when we see, from other universes of the same universe kind of thing.
Yeah, just complete and utter, Marvel's laid it out for you. Madness, It's chaos, it's madness. That's what's going on. And I think from the perspective of setting up everything that's coming after it, Loki is a success. From the perspective of, is this a really good show, like a standalone show? it kind of struggles there. You know, it's a little give and take, and that's those mixed feelings that we both talked about, I think.
I would kind of wish that this was like a movie, like we were talking about, instead of like a 6-episode show kind of thing to like set us up for the next thing. But yeah, I mean, I think that is where it succeeds. If it's meant to expand like the Marvel Cinematic Universe or Marvel Studios or whatever it said, I think then in that way it's success. But, you know, as a show on its own, you know, didn't really work for me. And that's what the mixed feelings are.
Give it credit. What the MCU took, you know, like 15 films to do originally to set up like, you know, Infinity War and Endgame, Loki did in an episode.
Honestly, I think there should be a whole show that's just Lizard Loki, but that's just me.
Not a Loki, he's a crocodile.
He is a crocodile.
Or is he a Loki playing the long game? In which case, he's more likely a Loki.
Well, Randall and I, we want to know what you guys think about Loki. Are we totally off base on this, or do you agree with some of the stuff and not others? Let us know in the comments below. Also, be sure to go to our YouTube page, check out some of our other reviews. We have new movie reviews, flashback movie reviews. We take a look at other TV shows, and we have deeper dive discussions.
We also have a Facebook page. Make sure to go check us out over there if you haven't already. We post the day before what we're going to be posting on YouTube the next day, as well as some other tidbits from other fandoms. But of course, you know, if you don't want to go like us over there, no big deal. Put us on your calendar. New videos every Monday and Thursday. For now, I'm Randall here in Texas. See everyone next time.
And I'm Matt here in Michigan. Have a good day, everyone. Next time on No Market Media. Please consider checking out some of our other videos.